Hello there. What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about X-Wing Wave 5, XWing Epic, XWing Adepticon news, all of that good stuff. So with that being said, I do want to remind you guys there is a new round of the giveaway going on right now. So if you'd like to win a $25 Amazon gift card for an expansion of your choice, all you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment. Let me know what you hope is in X-Wing Wave 5. All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and dive in to this X-Wing talk. We just had our big Adepticon panel yesterday, and basically all the stuff that they showed us for X-Wing was stuff we've already seen. All right, so it's okay because they had a lot of other things to talk about, and I think the Clone Wars 4 Legion kind of monopolized a lot of that conversation, but there was still some X-Wing stuff that could be gleaned from the conversation, as well as some definite hints to the future and some other things that I think are going to be very, very interesting. So one of the things that they talked about is the biggest thing is Wave 5, because that was like in the slides, where's Wave 5? And they said you'll have to wait till Star Wars Celebration. Now, this is kind of a big deal because we normally don't see a lot of major announcements at Celebration. The last Celebration, they kind of announced the new Destiny wave of expansions and just showed you like one card from it, so they didn't even give you like a big preview. So, Celebration, from my experience with Fantasy Flight, is more about actually breaking through and reaching new people who aren't already familiar with gaming, because Celebration is targeting the greater Star Wars audience and not necessarily a greater gaming audience. So you're trying to take, like if I'm Fantasy Flight, I'm trying to target Star Wars fans who haven't really, broken into tabletop gaming yet, or fans who are maybe on the fence and now they can come play a demo, and things like that. So you're trying to reach new people and say, hey guys, this is a thing. Look at what we have. Come sit down and play it. Oh, don't you like these miniatures? Oh, don't you like the gameplay here? Oh, look at our cool tables and all the promo. Here's a promo, and also reaching some of those fans. And then as a side note, you're like, oh, and by the way, for our fans who are already into this, here's something extra for you. So they're doing a little bit of both of that this year at Star Wars Celebration. And I think that's kind of the goal. So I'm actually surprised that they're going to be announcing Wave 5 at Star Wars Celebration. So that's actually pretty cool. We don't know exactly anything really about what's going to be in Wave 5. We don't know the structure balance, if it's going to be a large expansion or a large wave or a small wave. I will say this, though, it's coming pretty quick on the heels of Wave 4, because we only recently found out about Wave 4, and of course Wave 3 just came out last week. So, they're definitely fast rolling this, this new X-Wing 2.0 and all the different factions and stuff. And I think for good reason, because, with 7 factions now, you have a lot of stuff to get balanced and caught up. I would maybe guess that after either Wave 5 or Wave 6, they can probably begin to slow down a little bit. The game may be to a point where it's like, all right, we don't need, a whole new wave every 2 months. I think because that's not even much of a slowdown. That's just going to like a normal pace. And around like X-Wing 1.0 waves, like 10 and 11 ish, 10 and 11, I think, yeah. Like for a while, X-Wing was at a good pace where it wasn't that slow where you're only getting one release a year, but it wasn't that fast that you were like, I can't even get financially caught up to be able to buy the next thing. So I think they're going at a very, very fast pace right now, especially with these waves being as monstrously huge as they are. It's definitely taking a financial toll on people. Now, granted, they're balancing that by not forcing you to buy multiple expansions. And that's where I want to go with the next thing, is the upgrade card pack that was announced for Star Wars Legion. And basically, they're just going to have upgrade cards in packs. And that's definitely something they said they want to do for other games. So X-Wing is probably going to see that happen. And I think that's a great thing, especially with 7 factions. You've got releases staggered all over the place. There's some, I talked about this in my upgrade card pack video, but I think that's something that definitely will come to X-Wing. And I think it's a great opportunity to, introduce, a new way for you to get something that maybe slipped through the cracks, because they're trying to make it to where you don't have to buy across the aisle. They're definitely trying to do that, but they're not perfect, and they've made some mistakes. And, certain, like, a big example that I cited in the other video was Darth Maul and the Dark Side Force upgrades that the Rebels might want to use if you've got Ezra. That's just a thing. I think we'll probably see another version of Anakin Skywalker that specifically says that he can equip dark side upgrades, right? That just makes sense, or at least one, dark, or at least select dark side upgrades or something like that. And that's another thing where he might not have access to all of the, all of the dark side upgrades, if you're only playing the Republic. Maybe even a version of him for Separatist as well. And then if that's the case, probably not a version for Separatist. But it all depends on, I don't know what they want to do. But I guess my point is, when you bring yourself to a point where the game is going to, reach across to other factions, that's when an upgrade card pack is really going to be helpful. Wouldn't actually surprise me if they came up with an upgrade card pack at the same time that a certain maybe dual faction type of pilots, or not dual faction, if not dual faction, then pilots that can reach across the aisle, like Anakin Skywalker, maybe even Quinlan Voss, right? Characters like that want to reach across the aisle, or Asajj Ventress as she's becoming partially good again. You could see a Separatist Asajj Ventress that can use light side upgrades, things like that. I think are really attractive and really fun, and add some theme and fun factor to the game. So very cool. And if you have those upgrade card packs, that really helps. Another thing with these upgrade card packs, a different direction they might take it, is new pilots for existing ships. So this is another thing that was touched upon. And I love the Q&As, because this is stuff we wouldn't have gotten if people hadn't asked those questions. So asking questions at Fantasy Flight panels is very, very good. All right. So they said, Alex Davey did say that we will be able to get new pilots for existing ships without having to buy new miniatures. Let me say that again for the people in the back. You will be able to get new pilots for existing ships without having to buy new miniatures. This is a big deal. We noticed this initially right away when the conversion kits came out, and we didn't have people like Tycho in the A-Wing. And we're like, hello, when are you going to do that? When am I going to get all of these beloved pilots that we wanted for all these other ships? Well, an upgrade card pack, or a cardboard pack, again, $9.99 for a pack of cards, and it was like 30 or something cards, like that's, or 30 or 60, like a high amount of cards for what in one pack to completely, take your whole game and give every single ship new pilots and options. Like, that's an incredible value, and that says a lot for consumers. That says a lot for the direction FFG is taking with their games. And I think that says a lot for consumer confidence. Like, look, this investment, granted you're getting plastic ships and everything, but this investment's really paying off now. And that was, I think, a big feedback point when, initial X-Wing 2.0 launched. I think a lot of people were like, they're making me buy all this stuff again, and, there's a lot of people financially that had a problem with what was going on. And I think this is a step towards fixing that. I think this is a step towards rebuilding some of that customer trust damage that was done. But, it may not be enough for some people. Some people, when they get jaded, you're not getting them back. It takes like a miracle. But I think this is still a step in the right direction. And I think it's just a good thing overall. Next thing I want to talk about is X-Wing Epic. X-Wing Epic is still one of those things we don't have much news on. We do have a little bit of news, though, because it was asked about. Again, this goes back to the FAQ. If you guys go to any panels with FFG, you've got to ask questions. And plan your questions ahead of time. Talk to other people. What are good questions that we should ask? What are the things, it's important to plan your questions ahead of time, because they're probably going to announce something that completely distracts you, like Clone Wars Legion, was so mind-blowing it could have easily said, oh, I had all these questions, and they fell away. I just want to ask about Clone Wars Legion now. All right. So people asked very good questions. So big props to everybody that was asking awesome questions. So X-Wing Epic, right? What about X-Wing Epic? I got my little Corellian Corvette here that I repainted poorly. But all right, a couple of things. First off, they just finished testing or developing X-Wing Epic 2.0. It just finished the development phase is basically what they said, which means that it's getting closer to being revealed. I imagine we'll probably have an update on it by Gen Con. If not by Gen Con, by the end of the year. That's my rough estimation, which is exciting, because X-Wing Epic is a really exciting thing. Although it also might be like, oh boy, what are we going to have to do with we're going to have to buy all new ships? No, apparently you will not have to buy any new ships. And that's a good thing, because these are expensive. It's a $100 ship. And I don't even, personally, I like big miniatures, so I wouldn't be terribly heartbroken if I had to buy a whole nother Corellian Corvette. That's kind of one of the reasons I painted this one, because I figured I might get another one day, and I'd have two, and these big, epic, awesome games. I was just hoping they would have it done soon, because Dice Tower Con is in July 4th weekend here in Orlando, and in the past we've set up really, really big X-Wing games and it's a lot of fun. And I would love to have Epic set up for that so we could get a huge Epic game. And it's going to be hard to try to use these guys as bases in a game of XWing 2.0, and you know it may be more trouble than it's worth. So instead, I might try to put something else together for a different game like Legion or Armada or something like that. We'll see what happens, but Dice Tower is always fun for that sort of thing. Anyway, but we know a little bit more about XWing 2.0 with the Epic stuff, XWing Epic 2.0. We know that they said it's going to be amazing. Now that just sounds, you know, that sounds like just all right. Of course they're going to say that, but it wasn't asked. Like Alex Davey threw that out there. He's like, it's done. We just kind of wrapped up development and it's amazing. And there's a lot of sincerity. Here's a guy. He's got a lot of credibility and he's got a lot of sincerity. He really loves what he does, and you can really tell. And so I have a pretty good feeling that XWing Epic is. I'm legitimately excited. Just hearing what they said and just thinking about like something that gets Alex Davey really excited gets me excited too. So that's really cool. X-Wing 2.0 should be a lot of fun. They're going to do some narrative aspects with it as well. Now they didn't really elaborate on that, but my approximation for some kind of narrative play with Epic, it could be like mission to mission, like game to game campaign type stuff. That's a possibility. That was the first thing that came to mind. But I also think, that tends to take a while, and a lot of times people can't stick around for 2 6-hour games because an epic game of X-Wing in 1.0 would take a really long time. So what I think instead is they're going to have scenarios. And that's a cool way to play. It's a very fun way to play because, honestly, I've always said that Epic in X-Wing works best if it's not being competitive. Doesn't work that well in a tournament setting. First off, it takes a much larger area, it takes a lot longer to play, you can get less games in, and it's more of a barrier to entry because all of your, out of like tournament that might have had 30 or 40 people, well, maybe only half of those people have Epic stuff and have a big enough collection to come play Epic and can have the time allotment to be able to play an Epic tournament. So Epic works better as casual, fun. Hey guys, you know what? There's no tournaments or events going on next weekend, so why don't we just all meet up? We'll play like a big Epic game or have a couple of Epic games. We'll order pizza, that sort of thing. Like that's when Epic really shines because it's fun. You can take pictures of your battlefield, And so adding some kind of narrative aspects to that, I think in the style of the way Armada does objectives. And if you're not familiar with Armada, basically there'll be like you shuffle a card or something like that, and you pull out, you get some kind of randomized objectives. This also applies to Legion. It's something they're doing in more of their games. So again, if they do something in lots of different games, more likely to show up in another game. So like trends will continue. If something works in one game, they're more likely to try it in another game. And since Armada had objectives, and then Legion has objectives, it makes sense that X-Wing, at least in Epic, could get objectives too. So that's what I think they'll end up doing, is some kind of objective play. Maybe, first player, has to deploy all of his Epic ships first. Second player has a win condition, and they just have to blow up the one flagship, etc. Or maybe it's like just destroy each other's flagship. Whoever destroys each other's flagship wins. The second player can make it a tie if they in turn destroy the other player's flagship, or and that's not even it. Maybe there's some kind of king of the hill, like whoever can park their flagship into the middle of the board, gains a victory point at the end of each round. And so it forces you into the middle and to get fighting right away. Things like that add some type of different way for you to approach the game. And it's important, I think, for a game like Epic not to just feel like a dogfight. Like, all right, it's just a duel to the death, go. Because then all of a sudden, these big old ships suddenly don't feel as competitive. Because, well that was what problem you had in competitive Epic for X-Wing 1.0 is, at one point, there was an Epic tournament, and somebody's like, well, I'm not bringing any big ships. I'm just going to max out on twin laser turret Y-Wings, because I could fit so much more, and now I have a guarantee of at least 12 damage on any target, no matter what, like something like that. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not, it wasn't fun, it shouldn't be about min-maxing. It should be about, well, there's going to be a random objective, and maybe the big ships will be good for for that objective-based play. Maybe they're going to go somewhere and just hold it and tank it. Maybe them being tanky and more less susceptible to enemy fire is one of their strengths in this new format. So again, a lot of speculation, but it's based on the hints that they've dropped for us. So we won't have to buy new big ships. Of course, there probably will be some if you want. I will probably buy every new big ship they come out with, especially if it's the sculpt is slightly off or if the paint job is different or whatever. I'll do that. I'll try to do the comparisons to the existing ones. Granted, my CR90 comparison will be a bit off because, well, mine has got, I painted it teal and put an extra wash all over it, and it's not exactly the same. And also, this one I've dropped on camera so many times. This ship has taken so much of a beating. This one more than any other ones. Engines have come off. All of my dual tuber laser turrets, all of the gun tubes are broken off of those. Like this was my first Epic ship. This is my baby. And yeah. Another thing I want to talk about too is, I have speculated before, and some other people were wondering if they're ever going to do bigger ships, like a Nebulon B, and maybe a smaller Star Destroyer, or like an Architens or a Gladiator or something like that. Since they, and one of the things that led people to that is like, well, if they're doing the Super Star Destroyer for Armada now, maybe they'll do bigger ships for X-Wing. Okay, fair point. Thing is, I think we need to look at the delays that have happened with the Super Star Destroyer for Armada. It's not easy to make something that big. So if they're going to do it, they need to do it in pieces and just have us assemble it, kind of like what they're doing with Legion. That's my recommendation, because here's why. Okay, this thing, your Corvette here is 13 inches long. 13 inches long. Super Star Destroyer is about 25 inches long. It's almost twice as big as this. Almost twice as big, right? So like that's roughly, how big something like a Nebulon would have to be in that ballpark. And they're having a ton of problems trying to make that. So it might not actually be a good idea for them to start working on things like a Nebulon, unless of course they can give it to you in pieces. If they're trying to give you a box this big where you see the whole ship on the side, that's just not going to work. I think I'm going to have to change up the formula if they try to go with anything bigger. And they can pre-paint it if they want, and just have, and a Nebulon would be really easy because you get the front section, the back section, and then the tube section, you just slide it in and lock it in, and it's good. That one's a little easier. Now, like a Architens might be a little trickier. I still have no problem with that. Just have, come up with some other way that it can like snap in and, just have it in pieces. But that's just my suggestion. But I'm excited about Epic X-Wing. I'm excited about Wave 5 being announced very soon. There's a lot of things I think we can expect to see. Some of the things I am expecting to be in Wave 5 is I'm expecting more Clone Wars factions, more ships from there. I'm also expecting some First Order and Resistance ships to kind of round out those factions more so than anything else. I don't know if we need anything new for Scum. I don't know if we need anything new for the Rebels. I don't know if we need anything new for the Empire just yet. But if we do, we still haven't gotten that new TIE from Solo: A Star Wars Story, the TIE Brute. We still haven't gotten that. If we're getting atmospheric craft, people have suggested that we get the LAT for Clone Wars because it works in both space and in atmosphere. I think we're long overdue for the Cloud Car for the Rebels, to be honest with you. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. Scum, there's a whole lot of stuff they could do. And they could do that. One thing that from The Last Jedi that hasn't come out yet is that nice ship. DJ, that ship that they stole, the arms dealer's ship. That'd be a really nice, fancy, speedy ship for Scum. So, granted, it wasn't a gunship, but it could be a really cool, fancy support ship that probably has good shields and good speed, but low weapons. There's interesting things that you can do. There's a lot of options left if they want to do the original factions. Some of the Rebel and Imperial and Scum players may start getting annoyed at the lack of new ships since they've got all these new factions to support. And I can understand that too. So they may decide that Wave 5 is the time to start making all new stuff for the existing factions. Personally, I think the new factions need it way more. And that's what hyperspace is for too, because you can be like, all right, well, granted, you're not getting anything new for the Rebels, but maybe hyperspace opens up and now all of a sudden you can take a ship that you couldn't have taken before. But that's all I have to say about that. A lot of really exciting stuff coming for X-Wing. And for the meantime, we've got the Clone Wars factions out right now, which feel like a ton of fun. So I really like those. We're going to bring more battle reports to you guys in the near future, so stay tuned for that as well. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always,